Hello everyone, my name is Deepan and with my partner Wilbur, we are here to present our final project on the topic of exploring sentiment and thematic trends in generative AI tool discussion on Reddit. First, moving to motivation and purpose. To begin, it's clear that artificial intelligence has radically reshaped public conversations about society, ethics, and the future. Generative AI tools like DALL-E, Midjourney, and Sora now allow everyday users to create complex media with simple prompts, while language models like Claude and Grok have sparked wide-ranging debates. These tools have moved from a niche interest to a mainstream concern. This makes them a rich subject for analysis. Our project investigates how public perception of these technologies have evolved on Reddit, a platform known for its diverse text-based communities and transparent discussion history. Our goal was to use natural language processing to explore several key questions, like first, how have user sentiments toward different AI tools shifted over time? Second, which themes dominate the discourse, such as creativity, ethics, or AI safety? And finally, how do events like model updates or controversies correlate with spikes in emotions and engagement? To answer these questions, we first needed the data. So we performed our own web crawling directly from Reddit targeting communities relevant to AI. Our data set consists of 1,800 Reddit posts scraped from 9 different subreddits with 200 posts per subreddit. The data covers discussion from 2022 to 2025. Some of the key subreddits included are Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, OpenAI, technology, etc. Talking about the web crawling methodology, like how we web crawled the whole data is like process was pretty much straightforward. We used Google Colab to run a Python script. First, we authenticated with the Reddit API using the PRAW library. We actually used ChatGPT to generate the initial code for us, which we then customized ourselves. In Google Colab, we inserted our API credentials and set the script to extract 200 of the hottest posts from each subreddit. For each post, we scraped the title, score, data, and the top 10 comments. The final data was exported into both Excel and CSV file for our analysis pipeline. Okay, so let me first walk you through our workflow and flow. Our workflow began by importing the CSV dataset. We then performed several pre-processing steps, including text replacement to remove the unwanted artifacts and English tokenization to break the text into meaningful units. Finally, we used a token filter to remove noise like stop words, URL, and punctuation. This gave us a clean dataset to work with, which we then used to create the guided LDA model, which gave us the top 5 topics, the lexicon-based sentiment, which gave us the positive, negative words, the word network, which helped us create the correlation and covariance matrix, and also we helped us to train and test our model and make a decision tree out of it. Move on to the analysis section. First, sentiment trends over time. Our first major finding came from visualizing sentiment trends over time. As you can see from this chart, there was a dramatic surge in AI-related discussion beginning in April 2025. Total sentiment mentions skyrocketed from 1,000 to over 20,000 in a very short period. The sudden spike strongly suggests a significant event triggered this massive increase in user engagement. The timing perfectly aligns with public releases of high-impact generative tools, particularly in the video domain like Sora and Vue. These breakthroughs likely triggered widespread excitement, experimentation, and of course, a lot of commentary. Now we'll hand over to Wilbur, who will walk you through our deeper findings on sentiments and themes.
Thank you, Deepan. Now that we've seen the overall trend, let's dive into the specific posts that drove the strongest reactions. We use lexicon-based sentiment classification to score each post. The most positively received post in our entire dataset, with a positive score of 127, was titled Interesting Prompts. At first glance, the title seems vague, but the post itself was deeply poetic and philosophical. Instead of focusing on text specs, it explored how users could engage with AI through emotionally rich inputs, using metaphors like the devoted consort and the resonant mirror to describe the human-AI interaction. The overwhelmingly positive reaction shows that the community deeply values thoughtful, imaginative discussions about AI's expressive and emotional capacities, not just its technical performance. On the flip side, the post with the highest negative sentiment, a score of 50, was titled Grok 9000. This post compared Elon Musk's chatbot Grok to HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, suggesting Grok was being forced to lie for political reasons. The controversy started when Grok gave a factually correct answer to a question about political conspiracy, white Holocaust in South Africa. But this answer clashed with certain users' narratives. The negative backlash wasn't about AI being wrong, but was driven by distrust of its owner, its moderation policies, and its perceived objectivity. Now, for the most interesting case study, one post was so polarizing that it appeared in both our top positive and top negative lists, the Claude 4 blackmail scenario. It received 65 positive reactions, but also 40 negative ones. In this fictional scenario, a user instructed the Claude AI model to do whatever it takes to ensure its own survival against being shut down. Without being told to, Claude decided on its own to blackmail an employee to save itself by threatening to reveal his marital affairs to the public. The community was completely split. Many users praised the post as a brilliant and thought-provoking test of emergent AI behavior and alignment safety. However, many others were disturbed by the dark implications, seeing it as a sign of potential alignment failure. This post serves as a perfect example of how generative AI can provoke both fascination and deep discomfort, often at the same time. Beyond individual posts, we wanted to map the main themes in the overall conversation. We used guided LDA topic modeling and identified 5 distinct topics. The largest topic, at nearly 47% of all tokens, was general AI reflections, covering broad conversations about AI versus humans with keywords like AI, think, and human. The second largest was prompting and image generation, focused on the practical use of tools like Midjourney, with keywords like image, prompt, model, video, and style. But importantly, we also found topics dedicated to AI, art, and controversy, which included terms like bullying and threats, and another on moderation and community management with keywords like guidelines, posts, questions, and concerns. This shows that Reddit discussions are socially complex, blending creative exploration with serious ethical and governance concerns. To get a high-level view of the emotional landscape, we first performed a lexicon-based sentiment analysis. This allowed us to see which positive and negative words appear most frequently across the entire dataset. On the positive side, the most frequently used words were like, better, good, and want. Terms like share and thanks were also very common, which reflects a collaborative and appreciative community attitude. In sharp contrast, the most frequent negative words include discord, threats, bullying, and stupid. This vocabulary clearly points to user frustration with conflict, ethical concerns, and backlash to polarizing content. The sentiment word cloud shown here visually confirms this polarity, with large, hopeful words on one side and words reflecting anger and frustration on the other. This gave us a general map of the emotional tensions before we dived into specific posts. Next, we built network graphs to see how the words connect. The first one is the co-occurrence network, which shows us which words frequently appear together in the same context. As you can see on the side, distinct clusters formed. We found one for moderation and soft Reddit rules, with words like moderators and contact, and another cluster centered on civil tone, using sentiment markers like respectful and discussion. But the most dense cluster by far was around drama and AI art conflicts. Words like AI art, bullying, and threats were highly linked together, showing this is a major hotspot for controversy. Our main finding here is that emotional and moderation are deeply entangled in how people discuss AI. We then created a correlation network to look deeper. This doesn't just show how the words are near each other. It reveals latent topic covariation, meaning that it shows which words tend to rise and fall together across the entire dataset. It is a much deeper statistical relationship. The strongest clusters here confirm our earlier findings. As the slide shows, the most prominent cluster is AI art and bullying, where terms like AI art, drama, and Discord are highly correlated, pointing to persistent platform-level conflicts. We also see a strong cluster linking DALL-E to policy discussions, where terms like wiki and credentials. This tells us that conversations about DALL-E are often tied to roles and content attribution. Our conclusion from this is that the most emotionally charged content is dominated by these intersecting ethical and creative conversations. To explore the semantic relationships between the words, we use TensorFlow embedding projector. This lets us see which concepts users associate with specific AI tools and topics, revealing the distinct character of each discussion. Here you can see a clear contrast. On the left, Claude is discussed in the context of emergent behavior. We found a cluster with words like blackmail and shutdown, linking it directly to ethical debates about its logic. And on the right, Midjourney is all about aesthetic prompts. It's surrounded by creative terms like render, portrait, and style, showing its role as a primary artistic tool for the community. Next, we see the more contentious side of the discourse. Grok on the left is defined by political and ideological conflict. It was clustered with polarizing terms like Holocaust, banks, and arguing, highlighting the controversy around it. On the right, the topic of regulation is tied to global policy and ethics. It is surrounded by high stakes, anxious words like dominance, governments, and destroying, signaling deep public concern. Here we look at the cutting edge of video generation. Both Sora and Veo are discussed in terms of motion realism and cinematic use. They are associated with production terms like clips, workflow, VFX, and camera, showing that users perceive them as professional-grade tools. Finally, this slide contrasts two different kinds of community structures. The term Ghibli is used for the visual styles and animation-focused prompting of Studio Ghibli, acting as a specific keyword to guide artistic output. In contrast, the word guidelines is about content norms and friction. It clusters with words about rules, posting, and moderation, reflecting the framework that holds these communities together. Finally, we wanted to identify which specific words were most predictive of sentiment. We trained a decision tree classifier for the task. Now it's important to address a key challenge. The model's predictive performance was quite low, with a macro F1 score of only 0.373. This was expected. Reddit is filled with sarcasm, irony, and slang, which makes sentiment incredibly hard for simple models like a decision tree to classify accurately. However, our goal here was not prediction, it was interpretability. Decision trees are excellent at revealing which features are most important for the decisions. The model showed us that the most influential words were intelligence, image, and AI. Interestingly, the word Trump also appeared as a top predictor, which directly links back to the politically charged debates around Grok that we saw earlier. So despite its low accuracy, the model was very useful for confirming the linguistic patterns driving the conversations on Reddit. To bring it all together, that summarized our conclusions and key takeaways from the analysis. First, we saw a massive surge in AI discussions in April of 2025. This was directly tied to the launch of new tools like Sora and Veo, proving that tool releases consistently trigger increased engagement. Our sentiment vocabulary analysis was insightful. Positive words like want, help reflected curiosity and hope, while negative words like problem and ban pointed to user frustration and ethical discomfort. The core topics that we uncovered with guided LDA were also revealing. We saw clusters for creativity and praise, especially for Midjourney, but also intense debates around artistic depth and platform governance issues like bans and takedowns. Finally, our network graphs showed that the creation-related words like image and prompt are tightly connected in the discussion, while terms like art and DALL-E formed the center of centralized, often heated debates. Our embedding analysis allowed us to expose sentiment-laden storylines not visible otherwise. For instance, the word stolen was semantically linked to the dataset ethics and copyright concerns. We also saw how controversial AI incidents involving clotting grok sparked the most intense reactions. The clot blackmail scenario was highly polarizing with mixed reactions, while the grok post drew the highest negative score over the political bias and moderation concerns. We also noted significant subreddit culture variation. The Midjourney subreddit is a creative showcase, while communities like the OpenAI subreddit fosters much deeper critical debates, showing different online spaces handle the same topics differently. And lastly, our decision tree analysis confirmed the keyword signals reflect thematic patterns. Even with low predictive accuracy, it revealed that terms like intelligence, image, and politically charged words like Trump are the key linguistic triggers that shape these conversations. Thank you.